Good morning. The top priority of experts in the Department of Public Health and the priority of those working at our nationally recognized health centers is to make the vaccine as accessible as possible. And the vaccine rollout in St. Louis County has been strong, and I'm proud of the work of our employees in the Department of Public Health. And most of us support their work, recognize their expertise, and listen to their advice on keeping us safe. But not everyone does. And as this pandemic continues affecting our loved ones, including our children and teens, and disrupting our lives and our businesses, sometimes emotions run high. And I recognize the fear and the anxiety and the anger that this pandemic has brought. It's taken lives and livelihoods. And we don't know how many variants of the virus there will be, or how dangerous or widespreading they will become. But we do know that vaccines work. And we know that we need to get more people vaccinated so our children who are unvaccinated can get back in the classroom and they can return there safely, so workers can do their jobs safely and our economy can stay open. Until more people are vaccinated, we need everyone wearing a mask. They protect the children who are too young to get vaccinated, and they protect the unvaccinated. Unfortunately, some of those who are against vaccines are spreading all kinds of dangerous misinformation. At council meetings, speakers say COVID-19 does not exist and that masks and vaccines do not work. And in the pushback against science and public health experts, some people are comparing saving lives during the pandemic to Nazi Germany. And I've had members of our Jewish community contact me hurt and bewildered by the behavior that's been allowed to proceed at recent council meetings. And they've asked me for a chance to say something this morning. But before I do, I also have something to say. This morning I sent a letter to the chairwoman of the county council asking her to use her gavel to call reprehensible behavior out of order. And I'm confident she will. Wearing a mask or getting a vaccine to limit the spread of this virus is no way comparable to being asked to wear a yellow star. And invoking the experience of the Holocaust is wrong-headed. So today I'm joined by leaders who have shared their concerns about this type of language creeping into the public health discussions. So I'd like to turn it over to our guests. Today we have here, beginning with Rabbi Susan Talby with the Central Reform Congregation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Page. My name is Susan Talby, and I am a rabbi who has served this community for 40 years. Together with my community, I've stood on the front line when hate sowed division and threatened the health and well-being of any group that is being used for self-interest, the selfish interests of some, without regard to their impact on others. And today, I'm afraid for my Jewish family. The overt anti-Semitism displayed at our most recent county council meeting makes me afraid for my congregation and the Jewish community in our region and across our state. By daring to dismiss the horrors of the Holocaust, by comparing the loss of freedom of over 11 million who were slaughtered, gassed, and burnt, including 1.5 million children, comparing that to a mask mandate is not only disrespectful, but it's dangerous. Throughout our story as a people, we have always championed public health systems, recognizing that no amount of privilege can protect people from the effects of pollution or pandemics. Knowing what it meant to be blamed for plagues, we worked to understand the scientific causes of illness. We understood the importance of addressing social, economic, and racial disparities that affect mortality rates and health outcomes. And we knew that education was among the strongest indicators of health and life expectancy. So we valued, invested in, and sacrificed for learning above all else. Many years ago, and some of you will remember this, many years ago I stood in this very place with Buzz Westfall of blessed memory and others as the KKK was about to march in downtown Clayton. I told the story of how when the ancient Hebrews left slavery, the Bible tells how we knew that the wilderness could be a very dangerous place. And so we put our strong ones on the front line and the sick and the elderly and the children in the back to be protected. Amalek, the tribe that only thought of themselves. Amalek, the tribe that thought freedom meant that they could do or say anything regardless of how it affected others. Amalek, the people who became the symbol in the Bible of quintessential evil, attacked from behind, and the most vulnerable suffered. The kind of anti-Semitism, the anti-AAIP, the anti-Muslim and anti-science and racist speech that we have seen right here is Amalek again. And I said it then, and I'll say it again today. Please, I know that there are people out there who are afraid. We can do this together. We can do this with compassion and kindness and understanding. Please, let there be no room for Amalek in our hearts, in our homes, our council meetings. Let there be no room for Amalek here in St. Louis or in Missouri. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is the Honorable Stacey Newman, the Executive Director of Progress Women.
Good morning. I am Stacey Newman, Executive Director of Progress Women, a statewide social justice organization that's focused on justice and equality. I listened to the St. Louis Council meeting last week, at which I did not feel safe to attend in person. And this was the council meeting regarding the new proposed mask ordinance. As a Jewish female in our community, I was appalled at the anti-Semitism and the hate that was allowed via the public commentary. It was not just appalling to me, but it was offensive to our entire St. Louis Jewish community, which is 95% of Missouri's Jewish population. We actually are 28th in the country in size. And many of our community are first, second, and third generation Holocaust survivors. Many members, including my family, were Holocaust survivors, most specifically my father-in-law. But many of our family members did not survive the Holocaust. In fact, our daughter is named after our great-grandmother, the matriarch of our family, who lost the majority of her siblings and their family, who were murdered, who were gassed in Nazi Germany. My husband has kept up our legacy by being a frequent speaker at the St. Louis Holocaust Museum, telling our story and trying to educate. As a legislator for 9 years in the state capitol, I faced anti-Semitism. I stood up against it, I tried to teach about it, and I stopped it whenever it was brought up in policy debate. Let me be clear, as our speakers are telling you, there is nothing comparable to the horrors of the Holocaust. Masks are advised by our medical community, by our public health officials, to keep us safe from a pandemic. They are in no way comparable to murders. I was appalled because nothing was stopped. None of the hate speech was gavelled down during Tuesday night's meeting. Nothing was done to cut off the anti-Semitism or to even say it was out of order. There is no place for any type of anti-Semitic analogies in St. Louis County. And there's no place for the increasing anti-Semitism throughout our state. As some of us saw last week in the Springfield City Council, 15 members showed up, or 15 members of the public showed up wearing large yellow stars. they were protesting just a resolution, a non-binding resolution about a vaccine. My own former colleague, Senator Mike Moon, actually posted something on social media also comparing the vaccine to wearing a yellow patch. There's a quote from the Kansas City Star editorial last week that spoke to me. And they said, the disgusting comparison of life-saving COVID-19 public health measures to the murder of 6 million Jews, or as Rabbi Talby's mentioned, 11 million, is now a regular feature of these mad protests around the state, around the country. And it's time for us to take such displays for what they actually are, the mark of a hate group. So as the executive director of Progress Women, we insist that the St. Louis Council, along with Chair Rita Days, apologize to the Jewish community and we demand that you all cut off and refuse to allow any further hate speech in public commentary in future meetings. The county council meetings is not a forum for unrestricted hate. There can be no more hate-filled conspiracy theories targeting our medical and public health communities. COVID is the evil, which kills and harms, nothing else. Protecting lives against the pandemic, protecting our kids, our vulnerable adults, this must be our first priority. So I want to reiterate, there is no place for hate speech. There is no place for anti-Semitism in our St. Louis County, in the council chambers, or anywhere in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rory Picker-Nice, the Executive Director of the Jewish Community Relations Council.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Page, for your words and for allowing us the opportunity to speak here this morning. My name is Rory Picker-Nice. I'm the Executive Director of the Jewish Community Relations Council here in St. Louis. What I hope you hear in all of the messages that we're sharing this morning is the simple fact that we are a community of people, of individuals. We have stories, we have experiences, we have family members that we have loved and lost. We have painful memories of oppression, of genocide, of destruction. And we are not political tools in the debate about COVID health. I understand that there are those who feel strongly that their way of life is being threatened right now, and frankly, all of our ways of life are being threatened, but not by one another, but by a disease that we are all trying to work together to fight. And in the midst of fighting together to keep one another safe, we are endangering one another because we are allowing division and hate to take hold. There is rhetoric that is minimizing the atrocities against the Jewish community to try to make a political point. There is rhetoric that has been against our Asian American community, against our Muslim community, against so many of the marginalized communities within our region who are not tools in this political debate. And we must recognize that when we use individuals as tools of rhetoric to make a political point, rather than advancing that political goal, who is hurt the most are those individuals who stand on the margins. Those whose voices have been silenced, those whose stories have been collapsed, all in the name of some broader point. It is dangerous for our community because when we forget our stories, we allow those stories to repeat themselves. We're proud as a Jewish community to be deeply invested in education against hate crimes education about the story of the Holocaust, education that recognizes that dangers to any of us can be dangerous to all of us. And we know that we cannot come through all of this as a region if we do not come through it together. And so we ask not only that the county council stop any speech that marginalizes any group of people, that acknowledges when speech crosses over the line into dangerous territory, but we ask that every person in this region recognize that we all have a role to play in making our region stronger. And that includes fighting against a deadly pandemic. It includes combating hate speech against any group of people or any individual. And it includes standing together for all of us. So we ask that everybody recognize that this is only something that we can fight together, all of these battles that face us, because we believe at the core that we can be stronger when we're together. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker here today is James Croft, Senior Leader with the Ethical Society.
Thank you, Dr. Page. I'm James Croft, and I'm honored to stand today in solidarity with the Jewish community of St. Louis. My grandfather, Captain Fred Croft, fought the fascists in World War II. He was a gunner with the Royal Artillery, a legendary shot, and while he was fighting on the North African front in Libya, he was captured and sent to a prisoner of war camp. The treatment of prisoners of war in World War II tended to be much better than that of those the Nazis sent to concentration camps, but they too had their systems for cataloguing and categorizing captives, including badges that they sewed to the prisoners' uniforms to dictate their status. My grandfather was not Jewish, so he escaped the Yellow Star. He was not gay like me, so he escaped the pink triangle too, the symbol the Nazis used to denote people like me. But he was a repeated escapee. He was not content to sit out the war in a prisoner of war camp, so he tried repeatedly to escape. And for his efforts, he was identified with a red circle on his prison garb, a symbol which meant shoot on sight. If he tried to escape again, they weren't to bother trying to recapture him. My grandfather could just be shot. I tell this story because when I saw anti-vaccine protesters in Springfield City Council last week turn up wearing yellow stars pinned to their clothing, and members of our community here in St. Louis making references to the Holocaust in our council meetings, I thought of my grandfather and everything he sacrificed to fight the regime which used that symbol. Let me be clear. These symbols mean something. They're part of our history and our present. There are people still alive today who were forced to wear that yellow badge in concentration camps. Those badges were used to denigrate and demean people, to strip them of their individuality and reduce them to just numbered members of a type marked for slaughter. This one is a political prisoner. This one is a homosexual. This one is a Jew. They're symbols of dehumanization, reminders of some of the worst parts of human history, and they are not to be used in a game of political dress-up. You may passionately believe that the government should not promote the vaccine or require people to wear masks, but you should not use these symbols or references to the Holocaust in general to make your point. To do so defames the memory of those, like my grandfather and like so many US service people who fought against fascism. To do so completely undermines any political point you are trying to make, and to do so brings disgrace upon you. So to those making these wild comparisons between the encouragement to wear a mask or to take a vaccine and the horrors of the Holocaust, shame on you. You should be ashamed of yourselves. As for the vaccine itself, I know many of you are skeptical. My friends and colleagues will tell you that I am a very skeptical person. Rabbi Talby and Maharat Pikanis will definitely tell you I like to ask critical questions. I like to see the evidence. In that way, although I come from another country, I am a Missourian. I want you to show me. So I understand the desire some of you have to see the evidence that the vaccine works and is safe before getting it yourself. I understand skepticism. And I understand too that there's a lot of confusing, conflicting information out there. I know it can be difficult to know who are the experts, what to believe, who to trust. So I, like most Missourians, use my common sense. I listen to the advice of doctors with expertise in infectious disease. And the truth is that the results on wearing masks, social distancing, and frequent hand washing are in. We asked, show me, and the studies and the research have shown us that these measures help stop the spread of COVID-19. Results of the vaccine are also in. All of the COVID-19 vaccines reduce your chance of contracting COVID-19. In addition, if you are vaccinated and do catch COVID, even the severe Delta strain, you are significantly less likely to have severe illness. I want you and your family to be safe. I've lost family members and members of my congregation to the virus, and I don't wish that on anyone. I also want this all to be over. I hate wearing a mask. I hate not being able to go to the movies. I hate not seeing my friends. The Ethical Society has been closed for 17 months now, and I'm anxious for our community to get back together. So I understand your impatience. But I also understand that the quickest and safest way to get life back to normal is to get the vaccine and, for the time being, wear a mask. So I ask all of you to do your part. Wear a mask, use social distancing, wash your hands, and please get vaccinated.
Thank you. And we'd be glad to answer any questions. Yes?
Specific individual comments that were made at the meeting that were most concerning as it relates to the disease?
You know, I'll let someone else answer that question. I certainly heard things that were disturbing to me, but I'll let them put that in context. Specific examples?
I'll do my best to answer you. I did not write down names of those testifying who mentioned Nazis, but it happened at least 3 times. And as someone who is used to hearing that word or any reference to the Holocaust in any type of policy debate, I was extremely offended. But yes, the Holocaust, the Nazi Germany, was mentioned several times by public commentary. I was watching virtually or listening virtually, so I'm not sure if anyone in the audience was wearing any yellow stars, but we do know from Monday night in Springfield, 15 members showed up wearing those.
Any other questions? Doug? Okay, thank you.